Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Wild Cherry Season 1. This show came out in 2025, and it's a British teen drama. And it came out on the BBC One over in Britain, but if you're in America, you can watch it on Paramount Plus. Now, I have no idea why the show is called Wild Cherry. There's no cherry reference anywhere in like the show. Like, I know why Pretty Little Liars is called what it is. I know why Desperate Housewives is called why it is. And I know why Women Kill or Murder, where it's called, or Devious Housemaids is called the reason why it is. But I have no idea why this show is called what it is. Now, this show was created by Nicole Lecky. And I think I'm saying her name wrong when she pronounces it Nicole. I'm saying it the American way. My bad. I'm not sure how to say her name. I'm going to swing back to her a little bit later. So let's put a pin in the creator slash writer slash narrator of this show and slash character of this show. So I'll swing back around a little bit later back to that. Now, as you can see, this is a female-led series. And as you can see, I don't have my Women's of the Month like template. And as you can see by the title, it says Rant Review. And the reason for that is because, well, while this show is interesting and while it's intriguing and everything, it is heavily flawed and everything. And it frustrates me to say that because I really wanted to like this show. I love dramas and stuff. I love female-led shows. And I love people who are creative and passionate about what they create. But sometimes things don't always work out the way they want it to. And it doesn't always work out the way I hope it is when I'm watching it. The show is not horrible, but it is very, very flawed in everything. Now, when I was strolling around on Paramount, first, let me just say, as of the recording of this video, this show has not been renewed. It has not been canceled. So it's kind of just up in the air for now. And like I said before, it came out in 2025. I just now discovered this show for the first time, like literally like a couple of days ago. And so, yeah, I've never heard of this show. Like, I recognize some of the cast. That's cool. I'm always happy when I recognize the cast. But, yeah. So, I don't know if it's going to be renewed or not. It has mixed reviews. It has a lot of mixed reviews for me. And so, like, I don't know what's holding up on the status of this show. Now, lately in modern day streaming shows, it takes 2 to 3 years just for another season to come out. And this is a British show, and like I've noticed with both American and British shows, a lot of the stars take on other projects, which what holds things up. Because the lead actress who plays Allegra, she's already booked for a brand new television show that's supposed to be coming out sometime next year, I think. The actress who plays Lorna, was it Lorna or is it Lauren? Lorna, yeah. She's going to be on a brand new television show very soon. And the actress, Nicole, she is from Sweet Pea, which, ironically, it only lists her as only in the first season, which is odd. The second season has not come out yet. That first season was 3 years ago. Second season hasn't even came out yet, but the lead actress, I forget her name, Ella, I think it might be, she says it's coming. One reason why is because the lead actress is in like 2.5 other projects and stuff. Stars need to stop taking on multiple projects because, hey, people are tired of waiting 2 to 3 years for a new season to come out. And so, yeah, I don't know the status of like this show and everything. Right off the bat, when I was strolling around on Paramount Plus, when I looked at this picture, I'm like, oh, hey, this is an attractive cast. Like, I wonder what this show is about. I'm like, this picture looks familiar. It reminds me of this Pretty Little Liars promo picture from back in the day, over a decade ago. So instantly I wanted to watch. But then when I started hearing the premise, I'm all like, wait, hold up, this sounds a little familiar. FYI, the people on this show, they really don't dress like this even though they're rich. They only dress in these outfits in the very last episode. They pretty much just dress in regular, like the mothers, they dress up very formal, but not rich, fancy formal. But the girls just dress in like whatever casual thing, not even fancy smancy. Even the girls in Pretty Little Liars, they dress fancy smancy, even though they weren't like millionaires or nothing. But still, I digress. But yeah, this show reminded me so much of Pretty Little Liars from this picture. And that's because this show reminds me so much of both Desperate Housewives and Pretty Little Liars. It only reminds me of Desperate Housewives because of the murder mystery, a group of women, and the narration in the beginning and end of the episode. However, it primarily reminds me of Pretty Little Liars. There are multiple similarities between those two shows that is uncanny. One similarity is like, okay, it's a girl that goes missing, right? In the murder mystery, when a girl is found, her body is revealed late at night. The cops are around, friends and family. They what the heck touched my foot? Summertime, I swear, man. There's so many bugs. Anyway, it's at night, cops are around, loved ones are around, people are devastated. It reminds me of the scene from Pretty Little Liars, but that scene in Pretty Little Liars happened in the first episode. This doesn't happen to the end of the fourth episode, and there's only 6 episodes. There's something else that reminds me of Pretty Little Liars that I can't think of right now, but if I think about it, I'll come back around to it. But it does remind me of, you got the mean girl Queen Bee, who just happens to have blonde hair and just happens to come from a rich family and everything. And just like in the other show, her family neglects her and everything. But she's like the Queen Bee, like ringleader. You have the slim girl who like people make fun of because of her weight, and because of that she harms her body. You have the sweet innocent girl who falls in love with an older man. You have the girl who goes missing and then later is found dead. You have kind of like this mastermind jealous girl who is jealous of the main characters and wants to see bad things happen to them. And ironically, they just happen to be both women of color of a lighter skin tone. Now, how ironic is that? Now, this one's a little confusing because they never say outright, but you do get the hint very, very strongly. You have the girl of color who is like a closeted lesbian, or so I think. It's hinted very strongly in this on wordplay, but they never actually say it and everything. So, like, I'm just gonna assume she is. And so you got like all these similarities from that of Pretty Little Liars, which is a little frustrating. Which, every time there's a missing teen who goes dead, we gotta stop jumping to it's just a Pretty Little Liars knockoff. But that's only because Pretty Little Liars was a phenomenal show over a decade ago to where people still think about it. Yes, it fell off the cliff and got ridiculous, but people still love that show so much that there were tons of copycats. You had the showrunner of Pretty Little Liars make 2 spin-offs and they both crashed and burnt after just 1 season. You have the Pretty Little Liars creator of the book making her own type of show on YouTube and everything. You have the dude from Riverdale, which the first season of Riverdale felt very Pretty Little Liar-ish until it fell off a cliff on his own. But then he rebooted, a soft reboot, revival of Pretty Little Liars, and he completely screwed that up. Then you have the Awesomeness television network. Yes, that's the name, Awesomeness and everything. And they came out with their versions of like Pretty Little Liars and stuff. And so you had like all these knockoff shows left and right that tried to be like Pretty Little Liars. And Cruel Summer was another show that tried to be it. However, unlike all those other shows, this is the only one that, while yes, it took tropes from Pretty Little Liars and certain concepts and everything, it felt new, fresh, and innovative and everything. It felt different, and that was the great thing about it. Because I mean, Tag, the thing you saw, they literally had like a cyber stalker, just like Pretty Little Liars. And, so yeah. Now, while this show does not have a cyber stalker, thank God for that, it does feel a bit Pretty Little Liar-ish and everything. And there's really nothing wrong with that. But just make it feel different, But the thing is, trying to make this like Desperate Housewives and Pretty Little Liars is a problem because Pretty Little Liars was a successor to that of Desperate Housewives. Lots of shows tried to be like Desperate Housewives after Desperate Housewives went off the air. ABC, the network it came on, had 2 completely different shows that crashed and burned after 1 season. But then ABC Family, the sister channel of ABC, struck gold with Pretty Little Liars. So when you're trying to make 2 shows that are similar, when you're trying to make a show that's similar to 2 shows, but the 2 shows are kind of similar in itself, then that does not work. The problems I have with this show is that, one thing I appreciate that it moves at a fast pace, right? But the problem is, even though it's moving at a fast pace, it feels slow and bogged down because of the dialogue and everything. Also, this show has a structure problem. And I mean a huge structure problem and everything. One huge structural problem that this show has is it needs to pick a lane and stay at it. What is the show about and who is the main group of the show? Is the show a drama about the mothers and all the drama they're going through and how they're feeling at their age and their marriage and stuff like that? Or is it about these group of teenage girls that are promiscuous and everything, scandalous and everything, and they get in trouble? Or is it about this random character who feels kind of crammed in the show and serve absolutely no purpose? You could literally take this person out the show and it won't change a thing. And you can even rework it to where the stuff that she does can go for other characters. There was so much emphasis on this character, and I'm just like, why? Why is she a main character? And we already have our group of characters. That never made sense. Once again, I am about to swing back to this because that is a problem with the show. No offense. Now, if the show is about the group of girls, why isn't the show about like the 5 main group of girls that later become 4. Instead, it heavily focuses on only 2 who are our main characters. The other 2 are side recurring characters. If they're gonna be side recurring characters, you have to stop and think, do you want to give them something big and meaningful that makes you think they're responsible for this girl disappearance, or are you just having them do something that adds on to the other girls? Pick a freaking lane and everything. Like, if they're side recurring characters, they shouldn't have certain plot threads that make them seem more important than what they are. Because when they barely show up in the show, then that feels weird and everything. And because they are linked to the main 2 girls and this whole ghost app and everything and the scandal that took place in the show, they need to be in the show a heck of a lot more. Back to the mother-daughter thing, quite honestly with me, the mothers are a heck of a lot more interesting and stuff. Like, the thing about the girls is that the girls are just one note. What you see is what you get with no character development. With the mothers, you get a significant amount about their backstory, how they are in the present day. However, with some of the moms, or at least one of the moms, what we know about her past has absolutely nothing to do with her present for the most part. It has nothing to do with her marriage. It has nothing to do really with the way she acts. Why is this a plot thread and everything? Now, with the other mother, yes, we do get to hear that how she was wild in the past and everything. And this is why she is the way she is, but there's a problem. 1, we never get to see that past. And 2, things that happened in her past is not trickling over to what's going on with her in the present with that of her daughter and that of her husband. Why bring this up about her past if there's no correlation to what's going on with them in the freaking present? Also, the show wants to be so mysterious and so scandalous because we know something happened to this one girl named Iris. So, of course, you have to stop pointing the finger at other characters and play along and try to deduce the clues and detective work that everybody else is doing. The problem is the detective work is kind of slow and kind of, I remember, just like Pretty Little Liars, the cops are dumb. Anyway. The great thing about Pretty Little Liars is that it benefited for having like 20 episodes a season. This show only has 6. When I started watching the show, I was very uninterested until the ending to the 4th episode when it's revealed the girl is dead. But more so, the 5th episode is probably the best. Because it's more interesting and more things are coming forward, and I was looking forward to that at the 6th episode. But then the 6th episode was so rushed and they crammed so much crap in, it just started to fall apart for me. Now, what's interesting about that 5th episode, which I still feel is the best, because things started to fall in place a heck of a lot better. And this is the part that's going to hurt me, because I don't want to say this, because I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings and stuff, you know what I'm saying? But this brings me to my last problem and everything. And that's the creator slash actress who's in this show slash narrator slash writer of this show and everything, Nicole Lecky and stuff. Now, first things first, I have no problem with Nicole. This woman is drop dead gorgeous and everything. She is stunning from head to toe, and she deserves to be in more television projects and she deserves to star and be like the lead in them. Now, I saw her acting in Sweet Pea and everything, and I remember liking her character like a lot, you know what I'm saying? But it's been 3 years, so I don't really remember all that much. And I remember her acting being good from what I can remember, but when I started watching her in the show, something was off with her acting. And I couldn't tell quite what that was until I realized, oh, she's faking an American accent. And something's off with her acting along with that. Now, when she went back to her British accent in this show, things felt fine, but that was very, very brief and went right back to the American one. See, the problem is she's the producer and the showrunner and creator of this show. So I feel the directors and everything were too scared to tell her, hey, maybe we should do this scene again, and maybe you should do this, and maybe, you should give a little bit more oomph. They probably was scared to go against their boss. They're like, crap, if we criticize our boss's acting, we might be fired or something like that, Now, here's the thing about Nicole. She literally inserted herself into the entirety of this show with her character. Her character makes absolutely positively no sense in the entirety of the show. She's just kind of there, but she has this big secret and this huge revelation towards the end. In the last episode, she's literally narrating her story. First things first, her character has no kids. They're not related to none of the girls at school. Then she's not even involved in the scandal. She's pretending to be that of a self-help person type thing, right? And I'm like, why? That character should have been like a small role and this and that. And I thought that's what it was when I saw her in the second episode until she started acting strange, all dramatic. I'm like, what's wrong with her character? Then she started popping up in all the other episodes and she started inserting herself in all this other crap. And the things she was saying, I'm all like, hold up, this character is much bigger than what she should be. So what the heck is going on? Then somebody's narrating every episode, the beginning and the end. And I could not quite figure out who the heck that was at first. And I'm just kind of like, this person sounds American, not British. And so, and the way this person talking as though it can't be one of the characters, like one of the main four. So I'm like, who the heck is this? Then I'm like, oh wait, that one lady is American. So I'm all like, why is she narrating and stuff? Like, the thing about Desperate Housewives is that the character who killed herself, she narrated the entire season and the rest of the series. And through her voice, we slightly started getting more information about what the heck is going on, what her big secret was, and this and that. And then in the last episode, she just narrated everything that happened and explained her dirty secret. This plays out the same way. The only problem is Iris should have been the one to narrate this show, not the character of Gigi and everything. Because Gigi is just a character who's separate with her own completely different storyline that has nothing to do with the rest of this show. And even in the last episode, we start to get a flashback of Gigi and everything. I'm like, why? That don't make no sense and everything. And, then remember how I said that the 5th episode was the best? Well, Nicole wrote every single last episode solo except for the 5th episode and everything. She had a co-writer. And, not knocking her writing style or nothing like that, but she did much better when she had a co-writer and stuff. And when it came to the creation of this show, I was wondering, why did she tell this type of show? Like the premise is intriguing. It has to do with a group of girls who want like attention, so they take these revealing photos and videos and they put them on a ghost app, and then all the boys see them at school and rate their pictures and this and that, and it boosts their confidence. But then the pictures get leaked all around and a huge scandal happens. That's interesting because, first of all, the whole semi-nude and nude picture thing, that's been done to death. Heck, it was done in the Power Rangers 2017 movie. And so that's an old trope and everything since the beginning, since pictures were taken. Well, probably not the beginning of when pictures were taken, because it took a long time to take pictures, but you know what I mean. But this whole rate my picture, I need a boost of confidence, I'm not feeling loved or special at home, but I'm getting all this special stuff from comments. And then you add in influencers, where K-Riz comes in, who's a grown man who hangs out with teenagers and puts them on his platform, and then they get all kind of praise. Then that becomes interesting. So the premise is interesting, it's the execution that is not. And the creation of this show and how it all came to be is because Nicole was driving around and she stopped by this rich country club of a place, and she wondered, what do people like that really like? So she snuck in and started snooping around, and I guess she started mingling with some of the people, and that's how the idea for this show came about. First of all, with all the shows and movies about rich people and reality shows and all this other crap, you can't figure out on your own what these snooty rich people are like. Like, have you never seen Sorority Girl? Not the movie, but just went to a college and seen sorority girls and stuff. And not only that, but what did all of that have to do with this show other than the cast of characters being rich and snooty and everything? So many fictional shows and movies I've seen about rich people seem to be spot on. And the way she wrote her show is spot on from those old shows and movies that I've seen. So she didn't have to talk to none of these people to get their perspective and everything. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. Now, I did not add Nicole to the board of idiocracy and everything because, I don't have a problem with her at all, like I do Roberto, Sakura, Sakaska and everything, or that of Marlene King or David Zaslav and stuff. This is only her second project in which she's created and everything and starred in. And, and I do see the passion that she has and everything, because she created a show called Mood and everything. And it only lasted one season. I've never seen it. It's a musical. But like I said, it only lasted one season. The reviews were mixed, but no, not mixed. The reviews were critical acclaim and everything, and there were nominations and everything. And so I'm like, okay, if it's a critical acclaim, if it had tons of nominations, what the heck went wrong? Why did it have low viewership? And then I saw the cast. I'm like, oh, okay, a predominantly black cast, and a certain group of people hate seeing that. Because, of course, they don't want to support our projects and everything. Because it just offends them to see a dark person on screen. And so I'm all like, that sucks. And, I don't want her to give up. I want her to continue acting. I want her to continue creating projects. And I want her to continue creating projects for, herself and everything. Because she is talented, but she does need to slow down, stop, and just reevaluate what she's creating and make sure, she's hitting everything where she needs to hit them importantly and stuff. And that comes into the structuring and the writing and everything. She does need to get better at the writing. And I hate saying that because it sounds mean and everything. But I don't mean that in a bad way, because I would love to see her succeed. And I would love to see her in another project and everything. Now, I never seen Mood. I don't know where to find that at. But yeah. And people who are creative, they should never give up. Because if you don't tell certain stories, then people will never know your message and everything. And we're going to get the same boring crap like over and over and over again. But, she does need to improve. So I hope she takes criticism from the criticism online of this show. And if it gets a second season, just do better. You know what I'm saying? Because it had a cool premise and everything. But when you start to see, oh, feels like a copycat of another show and the writing's not as good as that other show, then that starts to be a problem. Because the thing about Desperate Housewives and Pretty Little Liars is they had a vibe to them and everything. You know what I'm saying? There was a certain style to those shows. There was a lot of intrigue to those shows and everything. And that's because of the writing, how the characters were, and how they was built up. And that's the problem with this show. Characters aren't really built up. We just told they're like this and that. Or in the terms of the male characters, because I lost my train of thought and I forgot to circle back to this. Every male character gets accused of something really bad in this show. And instead of the male characters denying it or confessing to it, they just ramble. And I'm just kind of say whether or not you did it or not. Don't ramble or just start rambling and everything, because that's not answering the question. And the show really makes you think that this person did that and that person did that, the male characters. But then nobody did absolutely nothing they were being accused of, and then it's somebody else, and it's just well, why did this other person do that? We don't know this other person that well. We're literally just getting told about them right now. And it's always best to see other than tell, or do both at the same time. And that's the problem with this show. Only the two lead mothers are really them all, and I guess kinda the Gigi character a little bit, are only the ones that are very fleshed out. Everybody else is just one note and what you see and everything. And that's not good writing. I honestly don't care about none of these characters except for Lorna and everything. Only because and a little bit of Juliet and stuff, because at least they're passionate about what's going on in their daughters' lives, and I get to know them a little bit more. But Juliet is just horrible and stuff. And the stuff that happens with Lorna in the past makes absolutely no sense to what's going on in her present. So yeah, this show has a huge structuring problem. And it's only one person to blame. Because the acting, thank God for that, is good all throughout this show. But the stuff they're giving, the material they're giving, isn't doing them no justice and everything. And sadly, there's only one person to blame, because one person has decided to be the creator, the writer, and one of the people who's starring in the show. So when you have a bunch of people having huge mixed reviews about this show, there's only one person to blame, because you made yourself everything in this show except for a director and stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna get into the synopsis of really what this show is about, some character profiles here and there, and how these characters work and don't work, and what could have helped these characters, mainly Gigi, work a heck of a lot better in the show. The show is about a group of high school girls. And the thing about them is that they're very, very, very close. And actually, in real life, the actress who plays Allegra has mentioned one of the best parts of this show was getting to know them and being their friend. Well, The girls consist of that of Allegra, Grace, Nori, Jacosta, and that of Iris. And so they go to like a prep school. All of their families are extremely rich. And so Allegra is like the queen bee. She's like the ringleader and everything, right? She knew a guy and she was like pretty close with him. And he got her to like, I guess, take some pictures or whatnot. And he put it like on this ghost app. And with this ghost app, like, you know, they started sharing it around the school and people started liking that. So she got her group of friends to start participating in it. And so, like, at some point in time, she rubbed him the wrong way. And then I think he said he leaked it to other schools and stuff like that. Grace and Allegra, they filmed a very explicit video of them like grinding on each other and dancing, all like either clothed or half naked, something like that, right? Well, like I said before, it got leaked all around, like, you know, the school and everything. And somebody leaked it, but she didn't know who it was. And so when they get confronted about that, you know, the parents had no idea. The school feels it's inappropriate, and some might speculate that these two might have been in a romantic relationship. But they're very, very close, and they hold hands and stuff like that because they're like besties. And so after that, you see no other like reason to believe they might romantically like each other. And so at a party that they went to that was hosted by K-Riz, Allegra started to blame that of Iris, saying that I believe it was you who leaked it and this and that, blah, 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 blah. She's kind of being like the tough cop while Grace is being like the nice cop and everything, right? And so they have like Grace and Iris have like a heart-to-heart conversation, and she believes Grace is messing around with an older man, and you know, and all this other stuff. Well, at some point in time, Allegra is hanging out with K-Riz and his people. And you're wondering what the heck is going to go on. They're going into like a bedroom. It's dark. She's dressed very seductive looking and everything. But they just basically make like a dancing video being all sexy and this and that. He's an influencer and a grown man. And so he has a huge platform with tons of followers. So she wants all those followers to see her. But of course she's wearing like a mask and stuff now. And so like during the party, a house invasion happened with some masked men. And they start trashing the place and they beat up K-Riz. And so I was kind of, when this is all going on, Allegra is acting all nonchalant. I'm all like, why is she so casual during the home invasion and stuff, right? This is bizarre. And so while this is going on, Juliet, who's Allegra's mother, she decides she's not even gonna wait for the girls to come home. She's gonna go out and have some fun of her own because, you know, Grace was spending the night. And so with that of Juliet, she is in a place that we assume that she doesn't get the attention that she wants from like that of her husband. That's what is implied very early on. And so when she's doing like a photo shoot, because she wrote like a book, the photographer like complimented her on how she looked, and she liked that, and she eventually ended up sleeping with him. So we don't know much about her marriage right now, but we know that she's cheating and stuff. And so she's drunk, she's partying, she comes home the same time the girls do, right? Lorna, for whatever reason, you know, since Grace wasn't there and her husband's home with their other daughter, she decides she's gonna go joyriding and just speed around in the car and just be carefree. But the question is, why? Why is she driving around so reckless and carefree? Is there something going on with her marriage? Does she feel like youthful again? Does she feel like she's free like a bird? We have no idea why. But then she gets a text message from Iris, of all people, and it has something, it's a phrase, I can't remember the phrase, but something to do with the word dream and stuff like that. So then next thing you know, it's reported that Iris has gone missing and has not come back. So the police are notified and they start asking questions about, like, what the heck happened. They start like questioning the girls at school. Do they know anything? Was there ever a fight? One of the girls started to spill the beans, but then Allegra made her stop. Now the school principals and people like that, they know something is up, but they don't really go too much into like what it could be, because of the simple fact, like, these girls are rich and some of their like parents and stuff just like will shut that down, you know what I'm saying? And so like the police, they're asking questions and this and that. And one of the people, they like, one of the parents, when they start to get like suspicious and everything, I think it is Jacosta's mother, she confronts K. Riz. K. Riz is just renting the place out. It's not his, but he's claiming it like it's his own. He's an influencer. He's very ghetto. He's thuggish and stuff like that. And he hangs around a bunch of teenage girls, which is extremely inappropriate and everything. And I'm glad they pointed this out, because of the simple fact, stuff like this happens all the time. Either you don't hear about it, or people just like turn a blind eye. Like with that Honey Boo Boo girl, when she was still underage, her mother let her date a 20-something-year-old man. That Danielle Bagoli girl, whatever her name is, that Bad Baby girl, Cash Me Outside, when she became famous as a teenager because of that catchphrase, all of a sudden, all these like black rappers and producers that I've never heard of, that are like very low key, started working with her and stuff. And I'm like, why? Why would you want to work with her? And she's underage. And she's not even a rapper or a singer. She's just some random bad girl and stuff. Then there's like Iggy Azalea. Like, I found out that when she came to America as a teenager, she tried to make it famous, but she had to struggle a lot and she had to hustle. And a lot of people she was associated with at that time were a bunch of grown men in the rap business and stuff. And it's like, why? Why are you interacting with a teenager? Like, you shouldn't even be trying to work with them and everything. And working with them so closely and hanging out with them in the house. And it's just, I'm glad they put a spotlight on this. And so he could care less about what's going on. And all of a sudden, one of his girls, who's an adult, she has on Iris's like jacket. And when Allegra asked what she's doing with Iris' jacket, he's like, I don't know, she must have left it here. But then he starts demanding money from Allegra, talking about, give me all this money or we're not making no video and stuff. So she starts taking the money, stealing it from like, her folks and stuff. And like I said before, from there, her and the other girls, they put on masks, they dress seductive, they start making all these wild videos out in public and stuff at like this one person's home, where an old lady comes out with like a shotgun and everything. And it's like their parents have no earthly idea this is going on. So Allegra, she is spoiled rotten to the core. She gets whatever she wants and nobody never tells her no. She basically controls her mom because her mom has no control over her. Her dad is never there. And she is the ringleader of all this crap. She associates with people she has no business associating with. She loves bad boys and people who have problems. That's who she gravitates towards, like men. And one of those people is Jacob. Jacob is homeless and he's been squatting at K Riz's place and like, the boathouse and stuff, or pool house, what do you call it. And so he's the one responsible for the home invasion, trying to scare K Riz into leaving. How exactly was he gonna scare him? Because the dude's like all thuggish, I have no idea. But like him and her have been dating and stuff like that, and he claims he has a sister, but he hasn't seen her in forever and she wants nothing to do with him. And I forget where the parents are, but he's basically homeless. But all in all, he's a good kid and everything. Grace is more of like the sweetheart type person of like the group, right? She is sweet, she's kind, she does have a bit of an attitude and everything. If her mom tells her don't do this and don't do that. And so like I forget what sport she plays, but all the girls are like in choir, but she's also does like a sport, and she's hanging around Allegra's dad. And we get a scene where Allegra's dad is like staring at her butt, and they're watching, I think, like swim videos and stuff like that. And when Grace's mom comes in, she doesn't like the idea that she's alone in the room with that of Allegra's dad, implying that there might be some underage something going on between him. And because he's never home, he doesn't give his wife no attention. He won't even touch her in bed. And so the show is really trying to make you think, okay, he's a suspect because, Iris is missing. Clearly, there's something going on with him and underage girls and this and that. Well, there's nothing going on with him and underage girls. Why the show would implement that, I have no idea. But he is a very peculiar type man. When Lorna's husband confronted him about something, he acted weird and even pulled a rifle on him when he was shooting skeet. And so the thing about him is, like I said before, he cheats on his wife just with women his age. He doesn't mess around with no teenage girls, but he's never home, and his kids hate him for that. And his wife is extremely lonely. I remember this actress from Nurse Jackie. Such a good show. Such a good actress and stuff. But I ain't seen her in so long, I didn't recognize her because she's gotten older and stuff. And you know what? She still looks good all wrinkly. I appreciate somebody who's natural, other than people filling their faces with filler and Botox and plastic surgery. So, nothing but props to her. And so she feels lonely. She's older, her husband's slightly younger. Her husband works for her. She has all this money. She doesn't get along with her father. Apparently, in her past, she was promiscuous and everything and always screwed up. And she feels like Allegra is doing the same thing. She knows she's not a good parent because she's neglectful and everything. And when the girls finally did come home, she decided to delete the home security footage video, because it also showed her coming home too, instead of being home waiting for the girls to come home. This was a big mistake because they need an alibi and everything. And so with her, feeling unattractive and unwanted and everything, she starts to have an affair with that photographer dude, even to the point of having like doing it on like the webcam and everything. But then at one point when her husband comes home and he's still neglectful to her, she just completely ends it with like the photographer telling him, "Don't you ever text me again." I'm all like, why is she being rude to him? But now we know why she cheats, because she suspects her husband cheats and everything. With Lorna, we find out her backstory. About 15 years ago or so, when she was about in her 30s, at least that's what I'm assuming. I think they're trying to set it up that she was in her 20s, but when you look at these actresses older now, there's no way they had teenage girls in their 20s and stuff. So I'm just going to say 30s, but it was probably in her 20s. And also because we see older computers and stuff. But anyway, she had this internship. She was working at this office, and her boss liked to get friendly with her. Her boss had like a wife. She didn't care, and she kept sleeping with him until she ended up pregnant. He gave her a check to go away. Either that or get an abortion. But she took the check and she just left. Later on, I guess she starting her own business, or she started working for somebody else, but she basically owns like her own business and stuff along with like her husband. She kept Grace and everything, and then all of a sudden she started getting like a summons, I guess like in the mail from him because he wants custody of Grace. Now this man is much older and everything. And also like he just wants to be a part of Grace's life. But for whatever reason, Lorna does not want him to, but she doesn't say particularly why. She's still hurt that he paid her off and everything. And he literally told her, like, you're not innocent. You knew I had a wife and you kept coming back. And we do see she still quiver in the knees for him when he touches her on the hand. But she resists and won't do nothing with him. But for whatever reason, she wants nothing to do with him and she won't tell Grace. Grace has no idea who her real father is. And her stepfather has no idea who Grace's real father is either. This is a secret that Lorna has taken with her, and it does absolutely nothing for the plot. Nothing whatsoever. It doesn't enhance nobody's story in the entirety of this series. And so, like, now keep in mind, Iris is still missing, and nobody's really lifting a finger to find her. The cops are doing their thing off screen. None of the teenagers are trying to figure out what happened to her. The adults, they start to find out about the app, and that's about it. But then something weird happens with Jocasta and everything. So she overhears Grace and Allegra talking about how some of the guys started making fun of Jocasta's pictures. They started calling her names based on like her weight. Now she's not heavy set. She just has a little pudgy face, but she's skinny and everything. Now I remember this actress from Heavy Feather. And so she decides she's going to retake some pictures. And she's going to take them completely nude. So she's naked in her room and she's taking pictures. And then her mother barges in to talk to her about something. And is completely shocked and terrified and runs completely out like screaming. Now her mom, I remember from another show, a movie. Hold on a second. So I'm just kind of like, okay, you give Jocasta this moment, right? But then this happened. So that happened early on in the episode. Towards the end of the episode, we see the parents just talking. Now the father I recognize from Catastrophe. Funny show. The mom I recognize as older Susan from the Chronicles of Narnia that came out about 20 years ago. She's married to somebody who's related to King Charles in real life. Anyway, so I'm thinking to myself, why are the parents just like chilling, relaxing, laughing it up, cooking in the kitchen? What about that scene with Jocasta? Like, are they gonna talk about it at all? Well, she comes in and she's all distraught. And they're like, what's wrong, honey? They're like, are you hurting yourself again? And she starts crying and boo-hooing. And then we later find out that she later told her parents about the app. And the app is something Lorna knew about and then told Juliet and her husband, because it's like password protected and everything. And the app is basically a calculator that looks like a calculator, but you put in a passcode and you have all your pictures and videos stored on there. And this is a very important thing for parents to know in real life. So I do like this aspect of the story. But I feel so disconnected because first we see what happens with Jocasta in the pictures and then nothing for the rest of the episode. And when it comes back, her parents are acting like, oh, they don't know what happened because the mom never mentioned it. How do you write something like that? That should have been big, that should have been explosive, and that should have been explained right away. But needless to say, now more people and parents know about the app, and so does the school. And Grace is blamed for this because Jocasta, for whatever reason, said that it was all Grace's idea. The school is pissed and they suspend her, which causes Lorna to do some investigation as to what the heck has happened. And Lorna is literally telling, Grace, I know this couldn't be you. It must have been Allegra. It is time for you to rat her out, but she won't do it. And she's all like, Allegra is not your real friend. You see, they threw you under the bus, her and the other girls. Now, they did not mention race, but it is implied that, Grace, even though she's like light-skinned black because her daddy's dark black, but her mom is clearly biracial or light-skinned black. And so she gets that light-skinned side or biracialness from her mother's side. Just because she could be mixed with something else and light-skinned, they still see her as a scapegoat. They still see her as somebody they can pin this on because of her skin complexion and everything, because she has black in her. This is very, very important, and I'm glad they touched on this, but I would have preferred if they would have mentioned race and everything. Just because you're friends with somebody doesn't mean they truly accept you, and they will throw you under the bus. But of course, there's a certain group of people who get offended when you make them feel guilty. So, because, they hate wokeness and everything and not allowed to mention it. And so, when Allegra actually finds out, she wants her friends to start protesting for Grace. They all have picket signs until the dean shows up or principal, and it's only Allegra there standing up for Grace and even does the Black Lives Matter hand gesture and everything. See, Allegra does care about Grace. And it wasn't her who threw them under the bus and everything. It was the other girls because they just didn't care about Grace and stuff. But they're too scared of Allegra. Needless to say, the school will not punish Allegra because her grandfather, who's really old, really rich, and very mean, stepped in and basically threatened the school. Threatened them in a way where they just will not punish Allegra, but they will continue to punish Grace. This is causing a huge friction between that of Juliet and that of Lorna, because they're only friends because of the girls, and the girls been friends since they were toddlers and stuff. And also Lorna is pissed because she found out that Juliet was never there during the party. And so I believe Lorna's husband's name's Steven. And so, with the whole Iris thing still missing, of course, for whatever reason, his storyline is that Lorna's been on the computer and sees that somebody's been going through a porn site. She blames him. He never denies it. He never admits to it. It's just rambling. And I'm just like, where the heck is this going? And is there a problem in their marriage? You don't never see a problem in their marriage, but now all of a sudden it is implied. And she's talking about, we've been going through problems. When? We've never seen that happen. Well, one day Steven was home. He was talking with his family. And they're talking to Grace about this whole app and how Grace is in trouble. And it would be smart for her to start telling everything that happens. Her sister comes in. Her sister's much younger. She's all like, can I watch videos on the tablet? And Grace just gets on to her and starts shouting and all this other crap, right? So at some point in time, the little sister is watching videos, but we don't know what she's watching. Then she puts the tablet down and has a big smile on her face. The dad is there. It is revealed that the sister is the one been watching porn. what does any of this have to do with the story of like this series and what's going on? Absolutely nothing. The little sister's not a major character in the show. This whole rift between like the husband and wife has nothing to do with now the porn. What was this about? See, it's things like this you take out your show that's not important. And things that would have been important is to focus more on the other two friends, Jocasta and Nori. Because we don't know nothing about Nori and everything. She kind of just pops in and pops out. So things are really, really, really looking bad for that of Grace. Because now Iris' body has been found dead, drowned in the lake, and has a huge gash on her head. And so now this is a murder. And with this app that's connected, the police are looking to find out who did this. Well, we have Grace, who's like terrified. She finds Iris's phone in like, her nightstand. She doesn't know how it got there. And so she freaks out and she puts it in Juliet's bag for whatever reason. But then she later tells her mom. It takes her mom a long time to tell Juliet. And when Juliet finds out, she's like, whoa, so you were going to let me take the fall for murder and this and that? But Juliet and Lorna, they need somebody to pin this on because it's not looking good for their girls and stuff, especially Grace. So they pin it on K-Riz. And he's like, I'm just like, because of who he is, what he is, and how he looks, they pin it on him. So he's constantly being questioned by the police. And so like, but he's not denying or really admitting to anything and just say it ain't my lake, so he could care less why that girl showed up there. But then when they say, she's been murdered and blah, 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 then he starts freaking out, but he tries to attack the female cop, which makes him look more guilty. Why would he attack the female cop for? But then one of his lady friends is all like, let him out. I have his alibi. He was with me the whole time. And so he's now out. And of course, somebody else has to be blamed for this. Well, conveniently, I think it's Nori. I think she goes to the school and she's all, or maybe it's Jocasta, and she's all like, there's a video you need to see of both Allegra and that of Grace. So Allegra and Grace were playing around and they made a video threatening the other girls in the group, talking about, you're gonna make this video, blah, 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 whether you want to or not, and started making gun hand gestures and everything. Clearly, they are just joking around, but it looks bad for them. And here they are now being questioned by the police because they are now suspects in a murder. So let me mention what Gigi's been up to this entire time, because I'm still baffled as to like some of the stuff that occurred with her. So she first met I believe it was Juliet. And so she's one of those self-help guru type people or whatever. But she also talks to their daughters and stuff, right? And she got in good with all the mothers and starts inviting them to her plays, this and that. But then something happened where they had to leave or something, somebody said something to her and she got completely distraught and she literally just activated her indoor, I don't know what this was, like a pool or something like that. Like the water just came up from the ground and it was really neat. And she's just standing there soaking. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with this character? And if she's just like a guest role, why is she acting this way? And all this other, that's what I assumed she was, a guest role. Then she started popping up in other episodes. And then when she was soaking and moking and whining and complaining to her husband, see, her character is very meta. There's a lot of meta references with her. Cause like she's all like, these snooty rich women think they're so much better than me. And in my head, before her husband even said this, I'm all like, isn't she rich? And then her husband asked that question, like, but you're rich too. She's like, I know, but still. I'm like, hold up, something's odd going on here. Why would she complain about them being rich if she's rich as well? And there's even a scene in like the show where it's like, somebody literally tells her you don't belong here and everything. And I'm just like, I totally agree. This character does not belong here. But then it's like she starts to invite, like, the parents over the party and this and that. And she tells them straight up before they start drinking, I spiked your drink with like mushroom water. So they're about to start hallucinating. I'm like, why is she trying to get them high and hallucinating and everything, right? Is she trying to get secrets revealed from them or do something? Well, at some point in time, she starts to initiate a threesome between that of Juliet and Juliet's husband and stuff. And so, like, she kisses both of them. But then Juliet starts to realize that her husband only wants Gigi. And this really upsets her. Because, of course, her husband never wants to touch her. And so because of this, Juliet just does not like Gigi. So while Gigi and Juliet's husband in the room, we have that of Juliet just like sobbing in the bathroom. And Daniel comes up to her and tries to comfort her and like, hey, what's wrong? And all this other stuff. And she starts to look at Daniel with goo eyes and she tries to kiss him only for him to back off and run off. Letting her know, hey, I don't want you, I want my wife and everything. Which really upsets her and everything. But it's kind of like Juliet had that photographer dude and she completely blew that. But then when Juliet comes home, she sees her husband and Gigi just talking, having drinks. And she is not whatsoever happy about this. And so she knows something's going on. She's frustrated. She knows they banged that one night and everything. And then Allegra brings home Jacob for a light dinner. This is when the family has a huge fight. Because Allegra has a brother who doesn't get much screen time here. And they get into this huge argument. And so, like, the son is all like, you're never here, and you're screwing around on mom, and you're a worthless dad, and blah, 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 blah. So he gets pissed and, like, walks off, whatever. And so the whole family just storms off, leaving Jacob and that of Gigi, right? And so I'm just kind of like, when Jacob got introduced to Gigi, Gigi gave him an interesting look. I'm like, oh Lord, I hope she ain't gonna scam a little teenage boy. You know what I'm saying? But then he tells her, Sadie, this is all your fault. You did something, didn't you? I'm like, Sadie? Who the heck is Sadie? Sadie Sink? She's in the Spider-Man movie. Like, who the heck is Sadie? And then it's revealed in a huge argument that so-called Gigi and Jacob have. Their brother and sister, the same sister that abandoned him and he ended up on the street. And Gigi is not American. She's British and her real name is Sadie and everything. And she's talking about, you don't know what I've had to do to struggle and hustle and blah, 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 and stuff like that. And in comes that of Juliet, who overheard the entire thing and threatens to call the police and everything. But I forget how, like, I think it was something because, she came over to ask, like, Gigi, did you bang my husband? And blah, 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 stuff like that. Well, of course he did and everything. And so, like, of course, this causes Juliet to leave her husband. She's all like, I don't need you. I don't want you. You work for me. You have nothing. And without me, you'll be worthless and all this other stuff. And all you do is cheat. And I'm not thinking to myself, but yeah, all you do is cheat too. I mean, I get that she's lonely. I get that she has needs. I get she wants her husband. And I get he's doing a bad thing by cheating on her with other women. Not teenage girls, but women. But she has affairs too, out of necessity, I guess. But that two wrongs don't make a right. But they're trying to justify it by saying she's in the right and he's in the wrong. I hate when they write stuff like that. So when it comes to that of Allegra and that of Grace, they are basically screwed. Everything is pointing to them. And they don't know how they're gonna get out of this and stuff. So Lorna goes back to her baby daddy, who she had Grace with, and it's all like, look, I need your help and blah blah blah. Grace is in major trouble, and he's all like, look, man, I got the money. You just say the word, I can make stuff happen. I can make stuff go disappear and everything. And she's all like, look, but he's all like, I want to be in Grace's life. She's like, no, I don't want you being in Grace's life. We don't need you and everything. But I just want you to help her. What kind of crap is that? You want him to use his money and power to figure out what the heck is going on. And like, you still don't want him in your daughter's life. And the thing is like, the only thing he's guilty of is cheating and paying her to go away. That's literally it. He hasn't harmed nobody. He had an affair and he gave her money to go away. And she used it for, like, where she is now. And these characters just kind of make no sense. And of course, while all this is going on, nobody's really looking into, like, why Iris text, like, Lorna that night, what that phrase means. The cops ain't really doing no detective work. The girls are kind of doing a little bit, trying to piece together what the heck is going on, but not to the extent of that Pretty Little Liars. And it just feels very uninteresting and stuff, right? And it's just one of those things that, like, it needs stronger writing to figure out what the heck is going on. And, like, who is blackmailing, like, these two girls and stuff like that. So Grace finally started using that brain of hers and trying to figure out, like, how she's gonna get out of this by just basically spilling everything that, like, she knows and stuff, right? Because remember, she is guilty as well, because she is part of the people who took the pictures and stuff. So she tells, I think, her parents that, like, Iris accused her of dating an older man. And so she's trying to figure out who had a boyfriend, this and that. And it must have been, like, an American guy and an older guy. And so somehow, and I forget how, they deduced that it must be Jocasta, who has an older boyfriend who's, like, American or moved to America, something like that. So they have to confront her about it. But, they are now, like, outcast and everything. And nobody really wants anything to do with them. Especially that Jocasta's mom. But Jocasta's mom is having a birthday party. So the two girls so now, and their these moms flash forward episodes of everybody looking distraught and dressed the way they are in this picture and everything is starting to come to light. They're at the party, they all gussied up and everything. And so Allegra and Grace, they confront Jocasta and everything about, like, some boyfriend and this and that. And she has no idea what the heck they're talking about and stuff. And this is when we get, I believe is this scene where we get the reveal that like Grace really, really, really cared about Iris and everything. And like she talking about like Iris accused me of dating some other guy, but there was no other guy. I've always really truly cared about her and blah blah blah. Indicating she might be a lesbian closeted and liked Iris. Which Allegra revealed I was always jealous of like you and like Irish relationship. A relationship we never got to see. Like not even them being really good friends and interacting. And that's because like who is Irish really, you know? Like we don't really know her as a character. So Lorna gets a call, and I don't know who it's from. I think it might be Steve, her husband, or it might be from the baby daddy, but they did some research and found out what that phrase is. It's like a little chat room type thing. Boy, a chat room. Well, it's been 20 years since something like that I've been in. And since they existed, ever since like direct messaging, well, direct messaging has always been there, you know what I'm saying? Like emails, but like direct messenger and stuff and messenger, that took over chat rooms and stuff. But basically, somebody created that and it's linked to Jacosta's like family's house who created it and stuff. So now, Jocasta, no, not Jocasta. Jocasta was singing a song and Grace could see how Nori was just looking at Jacosta's like father, Daniel, and stuff, just looking all sad and everything as he's dancing with his wife. And she's like, "Oh my God, like it was you. You were dating the older man. It wasn't like Jocasta." And Nori just keeps saying over and over, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen. Like it was a mistake." And he says he loves me and blah 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 and all this other crap. But then Daniel sees those two talking, and Grace looks like, "Oh my God, like I can't believe what you did," type look on her face. So of course he knows what they're talking about, and he chases her out. Don't nobody see them getting chased out except for like Lorna. And so, like, and also not only that, but Nori is barely a character in the show. There's no hint that she was dating him, no, like, nothing. And so the chase is on, and Grace is just running for her life and running into the woods. And Daniel screaming out her name, talking about, "I can explain, just let me talk to you," and all this other crap. And by this time, Allegra's already in the woods talking to that Jacob, and Jacob's all like, "Look, me and my sister were leaving, and I want you to come with us and everything. You don't belong with these people. We can be free," but she denies it, and she's walking in the woods by herself, and she can hear Daniel scream out Grace's name. All while that Lorna and Juliet are chasing behind. And so they all catch up, but then first Grace is hiding behind a tree, only to be cornered by Daniel. He's all like, "Look, man, I can't explain this and that." She's like, "It's you. You're the one who leaked those pictures and everything else because Nori told you about the app and all this other crap and blah, 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 and stuff like that." Well, in comes the mothers, and in comes Juliet. Again, he's not really denying or admitting to anything, just rambling. So it's a slap fest between all the women and Daniel. They're just smacking the crap out of him, not really punching him, but slapping him, grabbing at his face, turning around, this and that. And then somebody, and I have no idea who did this, took a giant log and clucked him side the head, killing him. Who exactly killed him? I have no idea. It's a mystery and everything. Hoping to get a second season and crap. I've tried slowing the video down just to see who the heck knocked him in the head, but I can't determine. It might be Juliet. I have no idea. So they're freaking out, they're panicked, and they don't know how they're gonna deal with this dude's body. So they realize, hey, let's just wrap his body up. And since we have Iris' phone, let's put it in his coat pocket at the party. So they wrap his body up in a bag, they put it in the trunk of their car, and then they drive off while the other two are going back to the party to clean up. And they put his phone there, all while alerting the police and everything of an anonymous call. In comes the police, they find that of the phone, and so they take Jacosta's mom for questioning and everything as she's freaking out, wondering what the heck is going on. All while there's a missing man's body who dated a teenager. But in the shadows and hiding behind a tree, you guessed it, it's Gigi and everything. And she tells them, I can help you guys and everything. Because, of course, Juliet wants nothing to do with her because she's fake. Because Juliet realizes that she's been lying about everything. But Juliet, not Juliet, but what's her name, was Gigi wants to help. So Gigi gets her brother and he takes the car with the dead body. And then Juliet pays him off a huge sum of money. And she tells him, I never want to see you again. You leave my daughter alone. And so he hops in her car with the dead body, with the money, and he just drives off so he can live a new life. And I'm just thinking to myself, first of all, this dude has done nothing wrong. Well, other than the house evasion. But he didn't hurt, he didn't steal nothing like that. But, but it's like he has done nothing. He's been nothing but nice. He even helped them get rid of a dead body, and she's still being nasty towards him and stuff. And so, when it comes to Gigi, like I told you, we get a backstory with her, right? So in this episode, we find out she's a bartender. And so there's a woman named Gigi, and wants to order a drink. But I think she was slightly rude with her. So Sadie, fake Gigi, spit in her drink. Then I'm not quite sure where they was at, but Sandy was just waiting outside of the door, outside, just waiting there. And a man walks up and he's all like, Gigi from America, is that you? And so this is when she faked the American accent, like, yes, it's me and everything. She goes back to his house and she sees pictures of his kids who are older and stuff like that. And so she started pretending to be the Gigi from inside the bar who ordered a drink and all that other stuff. I don't know exactly what Gigi was. I guess she was supposed to be a self-help person or something like that, and from America of all places, and came to Britain, and he was looking for her at the club, and just assumed because they both have blonde hair and stuff like that. But yeah, that's her backstory and stuff. And I'm just like, why is this your backstory? Why is this character in the show and everything? And it just doesn't make no sense. I'm saying? This character makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But she still has the photos of them trying to get rid of a dead body. So she's always going to hold that over their head. And then the craziest thing happens, right? She introduces her husband to her long lost brother. It's Jacob, and Jacob has a new look. Glasses, hair slicked back, fake American accent, nice clothes, and he's pretending to be posh. But fake Gigi's husband is just kind of weirded out by him for some reason and just looks suspicious, like something he doesn't believe, you know what I'm saying? Like, where this boy come from and stuff. And that's their story. And of course, she ends the narration and stuff like that. And it's just weird marrying somebody you have no idea who they are. Like, didn't he check her ID if she was supposed to be from America and everything? where's all her identification? Like, didn't he ask for like an ID card, a passport, something before they got married? Like, none of that is explained. But however, the show's not over yet. And you know, if Nicole really wanted to put herself in the show, she should have just played Lorna, or better yet, stay the Sadie Gigi role, but like make it more intense because it's shown that she hates rich people and she don't like how they look down on her and she's had a hard life. So what if it was more like the movie Heartbreakers, where it's Sadie and it's Jacob and they like grift people, you know what I'm saying? Like, what if she instructs Jacob to befriend that of Allegra, start dating her, and start getting her to take like the explicit pictures in the app and stuff like that, right? While Sadie gets in close with that of Juliet and the rest of the mothers, but especially Juliet's husband. The other girls get involved with the app and the pictures and stuff like that. And then, you know, they blackmail them, talking about this scandal's too big, you know, for you to involve the cops unless you want all these videos and all these pictures, like all over the internet and stuff like that. That way, they could really grift and hustle their way into getting tons and tons and tons and tons of money. You know what I'm saying? That way, the Sadie Gigi character is more interconnected with the group of mothers and stuff. Because here, she just is there for some reason, you know? And has this weird backstory for whatever reason, you know? So Grace has been reinstated back in school and everything, right? And so we think, okay, you know, Daniel, the pedophile and everything, he's dead and stuff like that. And like he killed Iris and stuff, right? But then she's in the restroom and she sees that of Nori. And I forget what she says, but Nori starts to like break down. And it's all like, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. It was an accident. So Grace, starting to become the Spencer of the group, from Pretty Little Liars, remembers she said the exact same thing at the party. What does that mean? And she's all like, wait a minute, it was you, wasn't it? She's all like, I didn't mean to, it was an accident. I'm like, what the heck? So we finally get a justifiable flashback. And so, like, we see Iris, right? And after she ran off and went into the woods, Nori followed her. And she asked her, what are you doing? She's all like, you know, what's his name? Like Daniel and everything. Like he's messing around with like Grace and he's like leaking photos and videos and stuff like that. And they're dating and this is wrong and I'm gonna call the police. And Nori's like, no, you're not. So they struggle for the phone and Iris legit either gets pushed or she just slips and hits her head on a rock and dies and then falls into the lake. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This is the missing girl that ended up dead because it was an actual accident where she bopped her head and died. No. Only for Nori, the lady later put on like a smirk and then just walk out the bathroom because she could care less now and everything. And I'm just kind of like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. First of all, Nori is barely a character in the show. Even her mom doesn't get no like dialogue and everything. She just sits there and stuff. And we don't know nothing about Nori whatsoever. Just like how, well, we know a little bit about Jocasta, but we don't know nothing about Nori. But Nori is evil, man. She accidentally killed her friend because her friend was going to expose her. She knew Grace was innocent the entire time, but constantly blackmailed Grace. Put the phone at her house to try to like blame her for like a murder. Then blamed her for leaking the videos and the app and all that, so she'll get expelled out of school. It's like the girl was so evil, but there's no hint, no trace of this whatsoever. And that's what makes it frustrating. Then the show literally pulled a Pretty Little Liars with the whole Daniel thing, making us pretend that like he killed Iris and everything, kinda like an Ian thing. And just like Ian, he um died by the hands of one of the good people on the show, kind of by an accident, and like died and everything, ripping off Pretty Little Liars more. Oh, one thing I left out of the show, I don't know if I mentioned this or not. So after the end comes and stuff like that, and it's winding down, we see Jacosta's mom go to K Riz's place and tells him, I want to feel special. And then she goes into his home to start making videos and pictures. What? After all that crap she said about him, after all that crap about the app and the scandals and the pictures, she now wants to feel special because of, what her husband did and everything. I don't get it. Like, I really don't get it. Yeah, I know a lot of older women are jealous of their daughters, especially if they're rich and they want to do the things they do. But come on, man. Like, come on. But another frustrating thing is Iris. Why did she have to go missing? Why did she have to die? We don't know not one single thing about Iris. What makes her so special that's supposed to make the viewer care? And that's the problem. It's the writing. We have half a group of friends that we know nothing, barely anything about, but yet we're supposed to care about them and everything. And I really hate tearing this show apart, and I really wanted to like it and everything. But it's hard to get invested into this show because the writing sadly just isn't good. And I'm all for Nicole creating her stuff and writing her stuff and this and that. But you gotta practice at it harder. Like, this should be a huge wake up call if this show doesn't get renewed. But even if it does get renewed, it's not perfect. It's not good. It's basically mediocre and it feels amateurish and everything. This could have been a groundbreaking show that was really, really good. But, this is why I say sometimes creators shouldn't always be the writers of their own project. Who is going to question the showrunner, who's writing a show? There's nobody to question that but the studio and everything. A showrunner would tell a writer, hey, sharpen up this writing and make it a little bit better. Can't do that when the show writer is also the writer and everything. Like, pick a lane. Like James Gunn. He created his version of Superman, he wrote his version of Superman, and he directed his version of Superman. And I don't like that movie because nobody was able to pull him back and be all like, hey, that's not good enough, do better, and stuff like that. And like I said before, I have nothing against Nicole. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just want her to improve. That's all, you know what I'm saying? Because I wasted 6 hours of this. And I just really wanted a very, very good show. Oh, also, Allegra, she decides she's going to start making influencer content where, she's just talking in front of a camera, looking very nice and not slutty, and just try to, talk about positive stuff. Wow, what brought that around? You know what I'm saying? Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.